have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Barnes? Councilmember Reed?
Here.
Councilmember Brown?
Here.
Councilmember Lawler?
Here.
Councilmember Spicer?
Here.
Councilmember French?
Here.
Mayor Brown?
Here. For those who are watching the meeting, and I guess we'll watch it when it's posted, we apologize. The meeting was started in the office. We want to make sure that it was televised because this is a special council meeting. We've heard public comments. Are there any other public comments? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go forward for the item for individual discussion. Item A, request approval of resolution number 2017-19, M99 Superior Street reconstruction, City of Albion water main replacement upgrade. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved and supported. Are there any questions or comments from council this evening? Oh, Councilmember Brown.
Mayor, Dr. Mitchell had begun to give us some information regarding the request for the resolution. So I'm asking if she can
Absolutely.
pick up where she left off.
Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, go ahead.
Mayor and Council, the MDOT project for the reconstruction of Superior Street, M99, those conversations began over 2 years ago. The project includes the rebricking of Superior Street. It also includes the rebricking of the parking lanes, which is the responsibility of the city. However, we were fortunate enough to obtain a TAP grant to cover the city's match for that portion of the project. The project also includes the replacement of the 1-inch water main. It was the conversation over 2 years ago. There weren't any major developments being proposed other than the hotel, which was able to upgrade their lines on the side streets. So there weren't any conversations relative to specific development being proposed. So we stayed with the 1-inch water main, which was covered by the grant. Now, 2 years later, there are a number of actual projects as well as proposed projects that are being contemplated. So while the street is being open, it seemed to be an opportune time to at least consider making some of these water upgrades, which would most likely be needed for any new business. So what you have before you is a resolution that is asking for an authorization to replace the water mains along Superior Street from a 1-inch to a 2-inch. So that would be the water service leads up to the shut-off valve. We had already budgeted approximately $59,000 towards our local match. So the increase is approximately $40,000. So the request before you is to increase the project cost, the local match for this project to an amount of approximately $100,000. The actual cost will be determined based on the project itself. The second component, and I should mention that this match would come from the water fund, and there is sufficient balance in the water fund. Its cash balance is approximately $1.1 million at the present time. Their overall projected fund balance is approximately $5 million, but that includes non-cash assets. The second part of the resolution is indicating that for those local businesses who are ready by tomorrow at noon, to indicate that they need an increase in the water line over and above the 2-inch, that we can incorporate that in plans for the MDOT. They, however, are responsible for that additional cost over the 2-inch implementation.
Okay. So, question, infrastructure. What we're talking about are the lines that are going to the buildings, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so, when the project for the street started and they did the assessment, MDOT determined that the 1 inch was okay. That's what they were gonna do, and that's,
There was no real assessment. The grant monies allowed for the replacement of the existing size.
okay.
I actually tried to finagle a 18-inch water main increase from the 12-inch, and they wouldn't go for it based on the grant. So the grant allowed for the existing size to be replaced. I will have to agree with what I've heard already here tonight, that I think infrastructure-wise, it's a very good move for development down the road.
Is it affecting all the buildings downtown?
All of the construction area that's going to have new water main will get new water services.
No, I'm saying the increase that we're being asked to approve, is that only going to certain buildings, or is it going to all the buildings downtown?
2-inch will go to those that currently have a 1-inch, unless there's a stipulation that, or an idea that down the road they're going to need a larger size. And that's what Manager Mitchell spoke of, was potentially there's going to be some 4-inch services as well.
Okay.
The
What I
one
will say-
exception currently is the Bone Theater, which has already had their increase to a 4-inch, I believe.
Correct. Homestead Savings also has a 4-inch.
Councilman Brown?
So, just so I understand, the replacements will occur with the exception of Homestead, but from Homestead up through to where Lopez is, where the current construction is happening.
It will
So-
go the entire length of the project from Vine Street to Ash Street.
And so every
Okay.
property that's connected to the main line is gonna have that improvement?
They'll have a new lead to their shut off, the city shut off out near the curb area, yes.
Okay.
Now, the caveat of the whole thing is now's the time to do it. Because not only are they putting all new drainage in, they're putting a new base in, they're putting all new brick in, and if that's disturbed, if we have to go in later and do that, you're never gonna make it right again. I've talked with MDOT about it, they'll tell you the very same thing. Once you move those brick, you're never gonna get them back and have them stay. And I think we've witnessed that through the years in some cases where we've had to do some work down there, and they begin to migrate. Once you move them, you cannot hold them still. So now's the opportune time.
Councilmember Law, then Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. You said that Homestead and the Balm has the 4-inch water lines?
Homestead Savings Bank has a 4-inch line there.
So
There's a
did,
4-inch line into the Bohm. The post office, I believe, has a 2-inch.
so did they, sorry, did they install it themselves? Did they pay for it themselves? Or did?
No, we will pay up to the city shut off. If they elect at that point to upgrade, let's say, because we're gonna put 2-inch in, hopefully. If they decide that they wanna change the plumbing in their building to upgrade, to have that extra quantity and flow available, that'll be on their cost from that shut off into the building,
Okay,
just
so
like everything
from
else.
the shut off to their building is what they basically paid for?
Correct,
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
correct.
Councilmember Brown.
And just for clarification, Mayor, I think I heard Dr. Mitchell say that any business up until noon tomorrow, what was that?
If they want an increase above the 2-inch.
They're
As part of this
responsible for
project.
that,
Yes.
okay. Okay, I just wanted to be, I can wait.
I don't, go ahead. I don't think there's anybody.
Okay, Mayor, Dr. Mitchell, I think I heard you say that the hotel did upgrades on the side streets?
Correct.
The CAS?
Correct. They tapped in off
Center
of
Street.
the two side streets. They tapped in off of Center Street and Porter Street. They brought two lines into that hotel, which are not on Superior. They will not be affected by
Right, so
that.
so the hotel won't, they
No.
won't have the, okay, because they upgraded on the side streets and they did that.
Correct,
Separate from what's being considered today.
correct.
Okay, and then the Bohm, already chose to upgrade it to the 4-inch, did I hear you say?
They already have a 4-inch service in there, but they will receive new 4-inch from the new main to the shut-off valve, our shut-off valve.
Right. Okay, but they're covering the difference. I'm trying to understand
so-
how they got a 4-inch,
When they did the
renovation.
rehab at the Bohm, during that rehabilitation,
Okay.
they went ahead and upgraded their system at that point.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is the Bohm and the hotel, are already set and won't be affected by this. So
For the
that
most part,
leaves.
yes.
And then Homestead is not, so that leaves. Okay, thank you,
No problem.
thank you.
Oh, Councilmember Spicer.
Thank you. So essentially, this resolution affects existing businesses that do not currently have a 2-inch or greater
Correct,
pipe capacity.
correct.
So that for future purposes, were downtown development, expansion, this would already be set and we wouldn't have to do this. And they could at least start out with the 2 with a good water flow. Am I understand?
Correct, and
Correctly?
it would depend on what type of business or what type of a apartment complex or whatnot goes in there. It's based on fire code and things like that for your fire suppression system, and I'm not familiar with it by any means, but I think that we are offering the 2-inch as opposed to the 1-inch, so that it at least gives them a head start.
So, like I said, I'm being redundant, because I want to make sure I'm clear. Whether it's Lopez, Cascarelli's, Secretary of State Building, the Boost Store,
The only ones that I'm
Yeah.
aware of that are any different than 1-inch are the ones I've already mentioned.
Okay.
Post office, I believe, has an existing 2.
Okay,
There's a 4-inch at the Bohm and a 4-inch at Homestead Savings,
Okay.
to my knowledge. Everything else is 1-inch downtown.
but it's going to be, through this, is going to be changed to 2.
That's what we would like to do, is
Okay.
upgrade to a 2-inch
Okay.
for the potential of development.
So the connection between, I guess, our line and then the line that goes into the buildings, is that under the curb? Is it under the sidewalk? Where is that at? Is it
It
in the
will,
street?
our shut-off will be in the sidewalk area,
Okay.
behind the curb.
So if a building does need to increase
The
it.
water main actually lays beneath the street, so if we have to go back later and upsize any of these lines, we're gonna run into street issues.
Well, if we have to upgrade our portion, right, because if the business, so let's say someone, I guess what I'm saying is, the 2-inch, how far is that gonna go to a building?
It will go from the water main to the city shut-off valve.
Okay,
The business owner is responsible from the shut-off valve into the interior of their building.
okay. So if the person, if the business owner or the owner doesn't upgrade, is it go 2 and then narrow down to a 1?
Yes,
Okay, and so if they wanted to upgrade it to a 2 in the future,
it would be available,
but they would have to pay for tearing up the sidewalk?
correct.
Okay, but that would not affect the street?
No,
Okay,
and that's why we're making this recommendation now.
okay. Councilmember Reed?
I went to the meeting yesterday with MDOT, they were doing the review, and they strongly suggest we go to 2-2, because with the city expanding and everything, and they said that once you lay that street, you don't want to bother it, so you're right about it.
Exactly. Just for a personal piece of information, I've also consulted with the city's engineering firm. They think it's a very good idea for future development. They recommend it due to the fact that those things that I've already mentioned. You're gonna be tearing the street up if you don't. I did talk with them about an alternative down the road, in that the potential of running up East Alley with another piece of water main. I can tell you that his ballpark figure was $200 a foot, and it's 800 and some feet from Cass Street to Erie Street. That doesn't include engineering fees, a contingency fee, or a fund. For me, my best suggestion is we take care of this now. I think it'd be good for the development down the road. I think it's going to potentially prevent us from tearing up the street that we're putting millions of dollars into. I just think it's an opportune time to take advantage of it.
Are there any other comments from council? Councilmember Law and Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one question, well, two questions, to help me out. Okay, you said that we had already budgeted 59.5 into our budget,
Correct.
and we just passed a little while ago,
Correct.
right? So, we have to go back in, and it'll cost us another 60,000 that wasn't budgeted?
Approximately 40,000.
Approximately, okay, 40. Okay, and it's just a question, it's nothing, no attack or anything like that, but we've been known that we were gonna tear the streets up, so why, now we trying to, I mean, we could have put it in our budget when the budget was being done, but we wait till now to kind of do it. Is it because you didn't have the information, or?
Well, primarily, there have been initiatives of specific projects, including the brewery, the Peabody Place, and there's even some speculation relative to Sanders Building that would necessitated us at least looking at what do we need to do to accommodate them as part of this project. So we knew there were some specific requests, and there seems to be a growing interest. So just in being strategic in approaching it while the ground is open, even though we don't have specific information in regards to the individual projects relative to any of the buildings, whether they're existing buildings and businesses or those that are have future development plans, even if they're not specific yet. It's an opportunity situation. The ground's open. What can we do to maximize the benefits for future development without having to disturb the street in the future, and to make that happen now? And it's far more cost effective to do it now while the ground is open. Because even if we were to look at it in the future, the cost is significantly more because you have to incur additional excavation costs. So we're just trying to maximize the opportunity that's before us, recognizing that there is now increased development interest, as well as once we have the increased capacity, that helps to attract businesses because they now know that a portion of that cost they're not going to have to incur.
Yeah, I agree, we do need to grow while Albion is growing, but I just wanted to ask that question.
It's a good
Thank
question,
you.
thank you.
Councilmember Brown.
Yes, Mayor, I have a question about the resolution itself, and leading into like the big question, what is the time frame that we're looking at that it will take to replace the water mains? And the reason I'm asking that is because we won't know until that part is complete what the final actual cost will be. So I know the way the resolution reads, it says up to 1,000, but with that understanding that it's an estimated amount and we won't know what the actual cost is, I'm trying to determine when we will know what the actual cost will be.
that will really be at the conclusion of the project.
The
because there's always
entire- okay.
contingencies. We know the cost of the connections for each side of the street. We have that dollar amount, but there was a water main break yesterday. So,
Right.
there are some, infrastructure that may be more complicated than, had been anticipated. So these are some things that are unknown and we can't predict. That's why we have a contingency included in it.
So not until September is what I'm hearing, that we'll know for sure what the final numbers are, because that's the estimated completion.
November. Well, November, yeah.
Okay, November.
Well,
Okay, I just wanted to be clear. So,
If
I mean,
I
I
might-
think the opportunity is great. I really do. It makes sense to me. I just want to, like in reading the resolution, and I understand things happen as you go, and you can't always predict what'll happen. But I'm just trying to get a feel of what may possibly go wrong. Like, $100,000 is a good estimate for right now, so I'm hopeful that it will remain around that dollar figure, so, okay.
I'm hopeful it'll be less than that.
Yeah, me too.
I tried to stack the cards a little high, especially when you start dealing with 4-inch water services. It's ductile iron versus 2-inch copper. The 2-inch copper is a little easier to work with. If you come across let's say another piece of pipe, some wiring or something that you have to move around, there's gonna be a fee for that as well. And obviously with the 2-inch copper, it's a little easier to do that than it is with 4-inch pipe. So, as I say, I've tried to stack the cards a little bit high as a contingency. Hopefully we'll come in under. But there again, I don't have a clue what's in the ground out there. So, who knows what we're gonna run across.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, what's the gauge? You said copper, what's the gauge of that?
I'm sorry?
The gauge of that, like how thick, for the
The
lines?
copper?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's got a 2-inch inner diameter and probably 2 1/4 maybe outer diameter. It's
Okay.
probably got 1/8-inch walls, I'm guessing.
Are there any other questions from council? Okay. So I'll kind of repeat what some of the council people have said, that it makes sense that it's going to all the buildings downtown, so that makes sense. But I think the one thing that, I've repeated a lot of times is we have got to be careful about kind of last minute things, because some of the opportunities that we know are in the works, like right now, are actually happening. We knew about those several months ago. So it would have been helpful to have that conversation earlier. And so I think going forward, my request to administration and staff is that, if we even think about, for example, I'll be very direct, so like the brewery, that's gonna take a lot of water. I mean, you're making beer, right? So if we know the street's open and we know we have a great opportunity that's coming into town that's gonna use a lot of water, it would have been helpful to kind of think about that instead of waiting, I guess having a meeting the day before the deadline. So, I support it, but I think going forward, we have to be really careful about that, because last minute votes, especially on money, that always is a concern. So, yes.
Mayor, if I might, we have had conversations very specifically relative to the brewery since they first approached us, because we knew that it was going to have an impact on the water consumption. So as soon as we had the initial conversation with them on a prospective project, I advised the MDOT consultants at that time. So we knew for specific projects that we needed to accommodate those. So that was not last minute, and that was not assumed to be a cost to the city. We were just trying to coordinate those efforts. I unfortunately do not have a crystal ball. So as soon as it became clear that there was increasing interest in the downtown, it's being brought to you. This is the opportunity that we have before us. It would have been helpful if everyone here, including the mayor and council at the time, 2 years ago, had just said, we're going to increase to 2 inches or 4 inches and assume the cost. But we were far more conservative in our thinking at that time, and we went with the proposal that was the replacement of the existing system with no additional cost to the city other than our local match. So yeah, upon reflection, in hindsight being 2020, that might have been a more forward-thinking approach, but that wasn't the one, of course, we took. But we do have the opportunity before us. As I was having conversations with MDOT relative to specific projects, is once we start having individual variances, why don't we look strategically at the entire system? We are extremely fortunate that MDOT is even allowing this conversation and pushing their schedule to the very last moment to allow us to get back to them. So I'm appreciative of that as well. Their plans are to start installing that system next week. So it's truly unfortunate that the timing didn't allow for greater deliberation and contemplation. We're also fortunate that because of conservative financial practices in the past, we have the funding available in our water fund to accommodate this proposal. So again, I do encourage your support of it, and hopefully we can move forward.
Are there any other comments from
I
Councilman?
have just one quick question. I know the deadline isn't until noon tomorrow, but do you have an estimate of how many businesses are interested in upgrading to the 2-inch? I'm asking if she has an estimate.
Not at the present time.
Okay,
No.
thank you.
We have some information tentatively of some that might be interested in going above and beyond. And potentially that's 9 businesses with 10 connections. But we'll have that finalized by the morning as well.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell.
Oh, thank you. You're good. Yeah, thank you. So, like I said, I'm going to vote for it. I think going forward, I'll repeat that I think council's going to have to discuss, potentially even policies about how we handle that, because I think the public's entrusting us to make, good decisions, and I don't think good decisions are, sometimes you have to make a decision, but we shouldn't put ourselves in that position all the time. So if I see no other comment from council, I'll ask for a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Reed? Councilmember Brown?
Yes.
Councilmember Lawler?
Yes.
Councilmember Spicer?
Yes.
Councilmember French?
Yes.
Mayor Brown?
Yes. Let's see. Are there any other public comments this evening? These are non-agenda comments. Persons addressing the council should limit their comments to 3 minutes. Are there any public comments? Oh.
Bill Dobbins, 15901 East Michigan Avenue. Number one, thank you for supporting this, because I think it's a critical part of getting us ready for new projects that are in the works, and so I thank you and the council for having the foresight to do that. It makes me wonder about if Homestead has a 4-inch in there. I mean, they're not a restaurant. They're not a hotel. They just have a couple bathrooms and a fire suppression system. And so my concern is, and again, I realize that it isn't going to happen, but that even though we see for the 1 inch to 2 inches an upgrade, is that you know, for what people expect, if you can imagine those buildings, if they all had 2 apartments above them, they had something that used water down below, each of those apartments had showers and they had dishwashers and things like that. You know, I wonder whether actually 2 inches is adequate. And gosh, this street's gonna be so wonderful that I do totally agree that with what Jim was saying, is that if we start digging this up, you know, we're gonna destroy, you know, just such a huge investment in this community. I realize that it's gonna be 2-inch and we can't get to 4-inch and, you know, unless it's specific projects, but my concern is that we've maybe undershot the mark and we won't know that until 3, 4, 5 years down the road. I realize that also. We did have a conversation with Jackson Sprinkler and, you know, who does fire suppression systems, and they suggested, you know, so we specifically asked them, is 2 inches adequate for a building with fire suppression? And they said it's marginally adequate. So they didn't say it was inadequate. They just said it's marginally adequate depending on what else is going on in the building. So it concerns me that at some point there is going to be tearing up the streets. Meaning we, ARC, are going to do everything we can to project forward. Ideally, it would have been nice, and I think Cheryl mentioned this, and I realize that that's too far down, but if we had a special assessment district or something here, and again, I know it goes to planning and, you know, all that sort of thing, you know, we could easily upgrade it, we could pay for it in 5 years, and you know, I think a lot of the buildings then downtown would have, you know, maybe go from 2 to 4, and with the idea that, hey, eventually there's going to be a reason that I'm going to have it, my building's going to be ready to do that. Realize that, and again, I apologize for sort of rambling, but I think it's great. We're going to get that. We're actively involved in the Peabody, and Cheryl's been helpful with that. We're going to get that from up to 4 and maybe 6. I have to decide before tomorrow. So thank you, and I hope we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. And I will mention that definitely about the assessment district, that was one of the things that I talked to Dr. Mitchell about is, you know, if we had time, that would have been actually a good example of what that whole idea of a special assessment district is for, is these kinds of things where in a local specific space, residents or businesses want improved infrastructure. And so the city could have, you know, went in and worked with businesses to do it over a period of time. So thank you. Are there any other public questions, public comments? Excuse me.
Jay Loomis, 408 West Ash Street, 1951. Okay, 3 minutes. Okay, this isn't about anything you've talked about tonight. I've brought it up. I've spoken with Cheryl about it a few times to make sure I collect my thoughts on it and say it correctly. My son rides the connector bus between here and Marshall. He has a job in Marshall at Applebee's. From his discussions with the driver and from my discussions with Cheryl, they're about 26 grand short on their budget. Last year, there was a very impassioned plea from the current mayor at the time. In fact, I would go as far as to say it was a bully pulpit. But he obtained this council, or not this council, but the previous council, to put $44,000 into and if my numbers are a little bit off, but they're not that much, $44,000 into the Albion Marshall connector to keep it running throughout the year. This year, they're about $26,000 short, if I know, and that, to me, is amazing to be only half as much, since it's only ran for a year, and most businesses only start to turn a profit after 5 years. If it would ever be brought before this council, I would wish that you would seriously consider helping to fund that. Okay, two heads nodding. Okay, 2 heads nodding. All right, that's a start. That's a start. Anyways, how am I doing? I'm a little bit. Anyways, and I bring this up also because he works mostly evenings, being that he works at Applebee's, which means he starts usually around 4 or 5 o'clock. He generally has to catch the bus around noon or 11 because it is completely full afternoon or 11 of people going, I assume, their job. In fact, it's all job people, to my knowledge, but they're going to Tenneco to a 2 o'clock shift start. But he has to start, which, I have no problem with that. Anything that gets him there is fine. But as I said, I know the county is looking at countywide transportation. I also know how fast the county moves, so I don't see that for a couple years. And I'd really like to see the people of Albion continue to work as much as possible. That includes my son, of course. But please, if it does come up, I would wish for you guys to very much consider this. On the grand scheme of things, 26 grand to me is not that much on a citywide scale. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments this evening? Okay. Councilmember Brown.
I was gonna make the motion.
Oh, that's when moving forward. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Jim.